Welcome to the Accessible Hunter podcast. I'm Greg Trainer along with my co host, Mike Hudson. And today we are really in for a good podcast. Our friend Wes Joyner from down in Mississippi is joining us. Mike, man, what's going on in South Carolina, brother?
Hey man, after 3 or 4 days, brother, we've actually got some sunshine coming in. So I'm backlit a little bit, but you know how it is with quad hands. I'm doing the best I can to make sure I'm staying on the screen.
Man, you're looking good. I just thought you were, glowing a little bit extra today with your sparkling personality.
Is that what it is? I don't know about that, man. I'm just blessed to be here, dude.
Man, I'm glad you're here, man. Every week it's a blessing that we get to do this. Wes, man, you doing good down in Mississippi? Can you hear us okay and everything?
Yes, sir, Mr. Greg and Mr. Mike. I appreciate y'all having me on here. Yeah, we're doing pretty good down here in Mississippi. We're on the same boat y'all are in. We're gonna have to call out Noah's Ark. It's been raining quite a bit over here, so we're finally getting some sunshine over the last hour. So I'm glad to see the sunshine.
I think that storm's moving right up the coast here because it's raining in Pittsburgh today, and hopefully, we don't get as much flooding as what they're calling for. But Wes, if you don't mind, man, you want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell people, a little bit about who you are, where you're from, that kind of thing, and we'd love to hear your story today.
Sure. I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. Actually, I grew up in South Haven, Mississippi, which is directly across the line, in right across the Mississippi line, from Memphis, Tennessee. So I've been here my whole life, in the DeSoto County area of Mississippi, which is the northwest corner of Mississippi. Um, got a wife, but we've been married 21 years. Got three children. I got a 21-year-old son, 18-year-old daughter, and a 17-year-old daughter. So they were, let's see, I think they were 3, 5, and 7 whenever I wound up hurt and in a wheelchair.
Wow, having young kids and having a spinal cord injury that had to be just so challenging for the whole family, not just you or not just your wife, but the whole family. How were you injured, Wes?
I was working at an electrical company. I was a heating and air guy, and I was working at an electrical company, and I was going up the ladder to get on the roof of a business, and the ladder, I don't know, I guess fell, kicked sideways, broke. I'm not really sure. It was an extension ladder. I was probably about somewhere between 17 to 20 feet high, and I fell flat on my back on the concrete before I could blink my eyes. So it happened pretty quickly.
Wes, that's the unfortunate part, man, is I think anytime you talk to anybody with paralysis, it's an instantaneous thing. We go from able bodied to limited, if you will, in the blink of an eye.
Very true, very true. Like I said, once I was on the concrete, I didn't have time to blink. Um, and I knew immediately that I was hurt. I didn't know to what extent at the time, but one of the guys that I was working with was a good friend of mine, and he had paramedic training in the military, so he rushed over to me, and he was able to, keep me stable, keep me from moving and injuring myself any further. Um, but when I call it God putting one foot in front of the other, He's always putting the right people in the right place at the right time. He called of course, called 911. They can't when they showed up. The paramedic and the EMT that showed up with people in my church choir at church.
Wow.
So yeah, so some people say things happen for a reason. I don't think there's any coincidences when it comes to God. He had it planned, and he did. There's nothing that he could get wrong. All things work for good that of those who love Him and been called according to His purpose. And I just believe I'm called, and I'm just living out my purpose for Him, try to glorify Him. So
You hit the nail on the head, man. We're here for a purpose, a reason, and a season. And he doesn't make mistakes, brother. We all we can do is just keep on going That's one of the things me and Greg have talked about on other podcasts and just in general is, I didn't volunteer for the chair, but here we roll, and we just want to keep on trucking, man. So I thank you for being here, man, and it's a blessing to see and hear everything that you guys got going on. Love to hear more about what you got going on a day to day, Wes.
I started after about 7.5 years of being around the house, being Mr. Mom, raising my kids in a godly home, making sure they got to and from, two of them were in a homeschool program and one of them was in the school system, making sure that they had what they needed. My wife is a nurse and she worked every day, not every day, but a lot of the time she would be at work while I was taking care of things at the house. But also she just being able to stick around the house and being able to take care of them. But after 7.5 years, I decided I wanted to try to do something that the kids were more self-sufficient, and I decided I wanted to try to do something besides sit around the house. And I got into substitute teaching. I'm a people person, and my wife and her best friend thought that it would be a good idea that I get out in the community and get involved with the school system. So that's what I did. I went and signed up, and they put me at work immediately, and it's just a joy on the days that I get to go and be a part of the school. When I get there, a lot of the kids they're used to seeing me all the time, so they they're tickled to see me. Hey, Mr. Joyner, they like to see me coming. I'm a pretty laid back fella, so they
Oh
like to
yeah.
see me coming, and I enjoy it. And when I'm out in the community at Walmart or at a football game or church or wherever, I run into all these people around the community. So it just keeps your mental, the mental side of things. It helps quite a bit to be able to be a part of things.
Wes, if we could go back just a little bit, buddy, I had talked to you, over the last couple of weeks about being on the podcast and everything, and I found out that you went to Shepherd Center where Mike and I went, and also, I mean, were you at your job very long before your injury, or you know, I think you were there just a short time, but you want to tell us a little bit about that, working maybe a little bit of a time, and then your time at Shepherd, how that helped you kind of prepare to go back to work later?
Yeah, Shepherd Center was an excellent place. It was a God-given place, and it was just so positive, such a positive atmosphere. I started out after my injury. I went to the Med, which is the regional medical center in downtown Memphis. It's actually the same hospital that Elvis dealt with quite a bit, Elvis Presley. So, but anyways, I they did a spinal fusion on me from T9 to L3. I left straight from there within a week and a half, right at 2 weeks, and went straight to the Shepherd Center. I wasn't put on a list. I was able to get right in. While I was at the Shepherd Center, and in that first week, they put me in a chair automatically, immediately, because they knew I was a paraplegic. So, being my main injury was T10 and T12. I did fracture C5 in my neck and had a brain bleeding skull fracture in 3 places, but those healed themselves. I didn't really have a traumatic brain injury, and I didn't really have any trouble with my neck fracture. But the T10 and T12 were what they call burst fractures, and it blew up. They pretty much, they call it burst. It burst, the vertebrae burst and into my spinal cord. So I I spent let's see, about 2.5 months from the end of September of 2010 until the week before Christmas in 2010. So they, you know as well as I know, that how the Shepherd Center is such a great place. It's not only rehabilitation; it's occupational therapy. You got recreational therapy outdoors. Taking us out and getting in the swimming pool and riding jet skis and climbing rock walls and skiing and all these different things that would just get you back out and get you comfortable with doing things with the help of the staff from the Shepherd Center. So, yeah, the Shepherd Center was a great, great God-given place. I recommend, and I have recommended people that I've come across that I've been able to help and advocate for the Shepherd Center. I've had three different people that I have, encouraged them to go to the Shepherd Center.
That's one of the things. Being able to go to a rehab facility and get a good foothold on life and how life has changed, I think is what we see more and more, where it kind of grounds us. Shepherd Center was one of those places. I'm with you, man. I absolutely loved it, but at the same time, it kind of jaded me a little bit. I thought the world. Here I go from able-bodied to injured, and everywhere I went, the doors open for me, and the swimming pools were easy to get into. And I was like, man, this wheelchair life's not so bad. Then we left, Shepherdson, and I was like, uh-oh, I'm grounded and I've got a good foothold on how to get in the chair and transfer and all that. But life's a little different than I thought.
I know that's right. I tried to get them to let me keep a room at the Shepherd Center.
Oh,
Right?
boy.
Called them back after the first couple of weeks. I was like, hey, can I come back?
I think one of the main things, though, that all three of us kind of experienced was, for me personally, I wasn't ready to jump right back into life right away. When I got discharged from Shepherd Center, I was still, in pretty bad shape. It took me years to want to get strong enough to be able to do some of the things. But Shepherd Center always had those ideas in my head that I could do certain things through physical and occupational therapy and, therapeutic rec. So even though I wasn't able to jump on board everything right away when I left Shepherd Center, they really put some great ideas in my head that things were possible.
Same. They put a lot of ideas in my head. They call it their toolbox. They put things in your toolbox. Even though you're not strong enough to use them at the time, that you always revert back to those things. Because when I left the Shepherd Center, I was pretty strong, but I wasn't strong enough to get off the floor and get back into my chair. But once I came home, I wound up going to a local gym here in town that I work with a personal trainer for 2 days a week, and they help get my core strength and my upper body strength back to a point to where I could pick things up off the floor without falling out of my chair, and could get on the floor and get back in my chair, things like that. Get down on the ground and get in the swimming pool. Just just building strength to get back to that point. It took me 10 months to be able to drive, and basically because I was waiting on the insurance company to get me what I needed to drive. I probably could have drove sooner than that, and then it took me about a year to get back to what they considered a new normal. Where it's a normal for us is different than the actual normal that we were used to. So,
and Wes, I don't think you mentioned it on the podcast just yet, but you had been working for the company only a short time. I think you had told me like almost 2 weeks. So to have the forethought of having the insurance and the workman's compensation and things of that nature, workman's comp is a lot different than not having any type of insurance at all. And when you were ready to drive and to do some other things, how did you navigate through the realm of insurance and workers comp? How was that experience for you?
well, I was there right at the 3rd week mark when I fell and got hurt. And they did have workman's comp, and I was able to be blessed with that. It was pretty cut and dry. There wasn't very much that workman's comp could say and or not cover, because there was no if, ands, or buts that I was 100% paralyzed and in a wheelchair. The only problems that I guess that I really would have had, they pretty much did what was asked, and anything that they didn't do that what was asked, I used the information that the Shepherd Center gave me, gave it to the insurance company, and then they usually didn't question it. They went ahead and on and put it through. So overall experience with workman's comp, I didn't ever have any trouble overall. The only problem that I did not foresee was I just recently, this past August, was transferring off of a shower chair into my wheelchair and broke my left tibia in my left leg. And I have what is called a medical set aside that was set up after workman's comp got to the end and I settled with the insurance company. They have what is called a medical set aside, which is where the government got together with the insurance company. They oversaw all the medical needs that I had been having and would have in the future. And they came up with a number and a life expectancy scale of to how long that they would cover that. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't get a lawyer and make it any different. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Once they come up with that number, they take the money that they get from that number and they put it all in this account, which is a medical set aside account that is an umbrella of Medicare. So anytime I have any kind of injury or any kind of, they pay for all medical supplies, all, wheelchairs. They paid for several different times that I'll be able to get new hand controls and different things on vehicles, as far as modifications on vehicles. They did do a one-time rebuild, not a rebuild, but modifications on a house. So the house I had, we were in the process of leaving and moving because it was a starter home. It was small and we have 3 kids. So we were fixing to move and upgrade. So they allowed us to sell the house we were in and upgrade, and we wound up building a house so that it's all on one level. It is all the concrete upgrades into the house, so there's no ramp. So everything's, upgrade to the threshold, so everything's level. And they help pay for the modifications on my vehicle.
That's one of the blessings. Not, I wasn't trying to cut you off, Wes. It was, that's one of the blessings too of going to Shepherd. It's all inclusive. Not only do they treat our physical needs with the PT and OT and going through all that therapy, but they also help us file insurance claims, go through the VA services. Everything that you and I and Greg saw, they kind of help shutter and they do that from the whole care. But what I found funny, not laughing funny, but they're 100% respite. They bring your family in and they teach their family on how best to help serve, because it's a family dynamic.
Right.
And I know my daughter was really young when I got hurt. She was only less than 2 years old, and so they wanted to kind of inundate that as well. And so how did you see any of that time at Shepherd Center with your kids, with them being able to come down or whatever?
Well, they came down and visited it a couple of times. My sister and my wife were able to swap back and forth. I have a sister that's a year younger than me, and they were able to swap back and forth. One to stay with me while the other one stayed with the kids and vice versa. But as far as the kids coming to see me, they came and saw me a couple of different times. One time they were able to come in therapy and then interact with me and, do the kid thing. Because, when I got hurt, my son was in football and soccer and different things. So we were able to mess around inside the Shepherd Center. It's like go to the gym and shoot basketball and hit balloons back and forth with the kids. And, they try to incorporate everybody, like you say, the whole family. Taught my wife and my sister how to care for me on things that at that particular time I was unable to care for myself. Of course, now I'm 100% able to take care of myself, which is a blessing.
And Wes, with working right now, I mean, you've got an opportunity to talk with young adults, the kids at your school, and how's that going? I mean, kids are questioning and now you get a chance to interact with people. How's that working with your job now, around kids?
It goes really well. The kids will ask questions, and like I'm an open book, so I like to educate them the best way that I can on their level. They ask me a question, and I try to make them understand it. Because of course they won't ever understand 100% as to what we understand, but I mean, I hope they never have to, but they will ask questions, and I'm more than happy. I answer them, and they see how laid back I am, and they know that they can ask me anything that is not going to upset me and hurt my feelings, and um, so they ask good questions. Just for one, like they can't believe I can't feel below my waist as far as like, can I come up and pat you on the leg or, something like that? Will you not feel it? I'll tell them no. And then I try to explain to them how the spinal cord works in the spinal column versus it being attached to your brain, and how that signal runs down to where the injured spot is, but the symbol never makes it back. Things like that, and just trying to make them understand. And then sometimes, they're kids, and I'm a big kid anyway, so at heart, so they'll ask me, can I ride a wheelie? Oh, of course I can
Right.
ride a wheelie. So they're like, well, we don't believe you. We want to see it. So I'll ride a wheelie across the room and then keep it in a wheelie and then turn around and ride back. So
Uh-oh. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. We lost Wes. Look like we lost Wes for a minute there with some technical difficulties, but we've got him back. Here's old Wes Joyner. He was telling us all about the wheelies in classroom.
I definitely didn't get up and run, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, the kids always want me to do wheelies and different things. So I will they'll ask me how far I can do one, and I'll say, well, you think I can do one across the room? And they're just like, no. So I'll do one all the way across the room, and I'll turn it around still in a wheelie and ride it all the way back to across the room again. And they just can't believe it. They bust out and go all crazy, and they think it's the best thing. So and then that just builds a relationship of ease for them
Yeah.
and an icebreaker for them. So anytime they see me or anywhere they see me, whether it be in a community or at school, either one, then um they're like, hey, Mr. Joyner, it just makes it an ease on them, and it makes it easier for them to ask questions too.
Well, you're teaching a lot of stuff in there, Wes. It's not just about fun and games. We're teaching about resiliency. We're teaching about bouncing back. We're teaching about how God still uses broken vessels to continue on. And but you're showing life in a whole different perspective, where these kids are going to take that to heart for the rest of their days. They're seeing somebody that could have had a negative attitude, could have had everything thrown at them, and they're not that way. You're showing it in a fun light that, yeah, life can be tough, and I'm having some issues where I can't feel my legs or whatever, but that's not going to stop me, and life shouldn't stop you. And me and Greg kind of joked around about it when you went your hiatus on the technical difficulties. I told him, kids have come up to me and said, you said you broke your neck. Your neck doesn't look broke, and
Right.
it's just that cut and dry, and I love that. We need to be able to have that open forum.
It definitely gives us an opportunity to speak with people at their level, wherever they are with their understanding. And it's our position in life to educate people, to put people, at ease, so to speak, around people with disabilities, that they can talk to us, they can joke around with us, that we are just people, that, we're Mr. Joyner, at school, that you're approachable, that they can talk to you about anything, not just your disability, but that topic's not off the table.
Very true, very true. I try to when they start asking questions, I try to I know the school system's funny about it, but that nobody's ever said anything to me about just, being a light shining for Christ, and reason I have such a good attitude is because of Christ. So, and my relationship with him. So I try to turn all the situations that I'm dealing with back into that so they can see that.
Nice. Well, Wes, what do you like to do when you're not working then too, buddy? We've been talking about work and about injuries, but what do you like to do when you're not working?
Oh, let's see. I'm a hunter and a fisher, so I like hunting and fishing. So I like turkey hunting, duck hunting, deer hunting. Um, I like, of course, fishing. Anything that'll bite the hook. And I'm a hot rod guy, so I like hot rod cars. So that was a thing that me and my dad were into. I got a '68 Camaro, and my dad has a '67 Nova. So I've got hand controls in my Camaro. So
Wow. I, I
yeah,
knew I knew you were a hunter because I've been following all your pictures of you turkey hunting and some nice deer pictures and you getting out with, Hope Outdoors, but I didn't know you were a hot rodder. Now I'm equally as jealous on that. Those muscle cars, that's something else.
yeah, I grew up in that. That's always been my thing before hunting ever came along. I didn't really get into hunting until I was out of high school. Um, I just kind of got into it. My uncle was a hunter, and I enjoyed watching him and him coming home with deer and different things. And I decided I want to get into it. And then once I got into it, I saw how much of therapy it was to be out in God's creation, be out there amongst the things that He's created, and it's just so peaceful. Whether I harvest an animal or not, it's just the being there and then being out there with your friends and just the experience of it all together.
Yeah, there's something different about being outdoors, man, and being able to reconnect. But you got me at that '68 Camaro now. Uh, that's always been my dream car. I want one of the SS. I've not had the '68 Camaro, but my high school car was a '65 Falcon Sprint, and I love that thing. I hate I got rid of it, but I may have to make a reconnect and throw some hand controls in it and come down to Mississippi.
Come on, come on.
Man,
Uh,
that's super cool.
um, one of the other things that I wound up, I like to travel also.
Yeah.
Me and my wife, we travel when we can. We've done cruises and things. The most of the cruises we've done have been Carnival Cruise Line, and they're definitely handicap accessible.
Yeah.
Um, the only thing that you would be worried about is like when you pull into a port and get off at a different country as to whether or not the country is accessible or whether they have accessibility on some of the excursions and things that you're doing. But overall, it's just like any other situation with us in wheelchairs is just call ahead, um, find out what's going on and whether or not they can accommodate you or not.
That's
Um,
that's one of the biggest things is education and knowing where you're heading, what you're getting into, and we travel a lot as well, and cruising's a fantastic way to get around. The only issue we've ever had is elevators, man. It
right.
is tough, but then I'm a fat guy too, so I have to make sure I bring stretchy britches.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Me too, me too.
Wes, did
Um,
you take a cruise over to Hawaii, or did you fly to Hawaii on that trip?
we flew to Hawaii. I had a friend that was in the military, and he lived on base. Him and his wife said that if we wanted to come, that all we had to do was get there,
Yeah.
and then they would help us out and let us stay at their house. And we wound up renting the car from his neighbor. His neighbor was going to let us just borrow it, but excuse me, of course, paid him some money, but it was definitely a lot cheaper than renting a handicap accessible van because the handicap accessible vans just for the I want what the 8 or 9 days that we were there, they want like $1,500 just to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's one of those things. I knew you had gone to Hawaii, and I was kind of looking over some of the stuff, but I lived in Hawaii for almost 4 years, and Oahu and Kaneohe Bay area, man, you can't go wrong. What all kind of excursions did you find to get into when you were on Oahu?
we went to the Dole plantation,
Yeah.
so that was pretty fun. We rode the train around the whole inside of there, and of course it was accessible, and I really enjoyed that. Um, we went on a little boat excursion out in the bay where we were on a glass bottom boat where you could
Yeah.
see, very pretty. We went on the Big Chief Luau, where we got to go eat and watch the show and all that. We went to Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
All of it was accessible, except for the submarine. Um, then we wound up beach hopping, or actually, my wife was beach hopping with his wife, and they were just out scouting around looking for a good accessible place to me to be able to get on the beach. And they upped on and came across a organization called Access Surf.
Hmm.
So they just so happened to be at that particular beach on that particular day. And it was a nonprofit organization that allowed people like yourself and I to to get out in the ocean, and they put us on a surfboard and we got to surf, or I got to surf.
Wow, that had to be awesome.
So it that's another one of those things where God aligned the stars,
Right.
and they weren't even supposed to be there. They hadn't been doing it since COVID, and they were there, and they never go to that particular beach. So they usually, like, how they do things once a month and it's on the first weekend of the month. Well, this
Right.
just so happened to be the second weekend of the month, and they just so happened to be there and at that beach. So it all lined up.
Timing's perfect, man. And
Yeah.
that's not by happenstance, but it's always awesome to see everything. Getting back to Hawaii is on my bucket list, man. I hadn't been back in years. I want to get back and see the Polynesian Cultural Center and
Oh,
Hanama Bay. I mean, if you guys ever get a chance to go there, it's like swimming in a fish tank. It's hard to describe. But Wes, man, that is fantastic. I'm glad you got to line up. How were the waves, man?
they weren't too bad. I had a guy that was on the back of the board with me. It was a great big old long board, and I got myself positioned on my stomach, and I was able to ride. He would get me on a wave. I was able to ride. I think I rode like three different waves, and well over 100 yards on each time I rode the wave. So it wasn't just like a huge wave, but it was enough that you were definitely skidding across the top of the water on a surfboard. So
Well,
um,
that's what it's about. It's about being in the moment. Man, I learned to surf in Hawaii, and it's something different when you're talking cultural. You're connected with the wave and the water. And then you take an injury and you put that in there, and man, that's mind blowing when you put all those catalysts together. And just being able to be a part of it, I mean, that's fantastic, and it's awesome to see organizations out here all over our nation and worldwide that are really trying to just give back.
very true, very true, and they were just so accommodating and such a loving group of individuals. They just wanted to do everything they could do to help. Um, And another organization that I have dealt with, went back to the hunting part of it, is I just got involved with Hope Outdoors.
Mhm.
And Hope Outdoors is a nonprofit organization that helps physically and mentally handicapped individuals like ourselves get out in the woods and get out and hunt. It's all voluntary. It's all the landowners are voluntary, allow you to hunt on their property. All the guides are all voluntary. Um, they raise money for there's like 19 or 20 different chapters in all around the Mid South. And they raise the money to be able to, like, if I went on a turkey hunt last year, about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from my house. And they paid for the hotel and fed me the whole time I was there. So it's just a awesome organization, Christ centered organization that like to be able to get volunteers in, share the gospel with them, share, also with the participants. And we just got a chapter started in Northwest Mississippi, for Hope Outdoors, that is we're having our first banquet, first event on May the 4th. So far we've done one deer hunt and one turkey hunt so far.
That,
So
that's that's awesome that you can have people volunteer locally, and you can be a part of it. And you're helping out your community and helping people all around you, Wes. That's such a good thing to be a part of.
and it helped with folks like ourselves with having such costly medical equipment, because medical equipment is very, very expensive unless you're in the medical community and or in the situation yourself. You don't realize that a manual wheelchair costs in the vicinity of around $5,000 to $6,000. So it's just it helps to be able to have them help with cost of different things to make it affordable for you to be able to do it and enjoy it and not be worried about um the money.
You're right, man. Being involved in organizations like that also helps us ground ourselves. We can serve others. It's not about self-service. It's not about pity. It's about finding ways to get back out and enjoy life and enjoy nature. But you know what I enjoy the most about that is camaraderie and seeing other guys and girls in the same situation we're in and just figuring out how to make it work. And running nonprofits and doing all that, it's amazing to see more and more nonprofits actually come together and work, because that's what it's going to take. Not one of us can do it by ourselves. So Wes, man, I appreciate everything you guys are doing that way.
I appreciate it myself, and it's very, very it helps you mentally too, because it's just being able to get back out there and do the things you love to do. I also involved in a yearly hunt in a local lake right here by my house, Arkabutler Lake, here in Tate County, Mississippi, and they do the same thing. You put in for a draw, and it's all voluntary. The Corps of Engineers puts it on. They put you out in the woods, and they bring you back. And I'm involved. I was involved with the local food pantry, and they got them in contact, and they donate a lot of the food for the hunt. Not all of it, but a lot of different people get together and donate different things, but um, it just all comes together so well with so many working parts and so many people being so willing to donate and help out. It's a 3-day weekend, 2 different weekends in a row. The first two weekends in December, and like you said, the camaraderie of getting out there, and not having to worry about expenses, just showing up, being able to hunt, being able to chit chat with your buddies and talk smack with them about who's going to kill the bigger buck.
Yeah.
It's just a good old time sitting there out in the campfire and just having a good time and not worrying about just life in general, just getting out there and enjoying nature.
That's right, brother. Well, Wes, we really appreciate you being on with us today, and everything you do in your community, and you're being a big part of it. Man, we can't tell you how much we like talking with you. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, or anything that you'd like to wrap up? Or Mike, is there anything that you want to say for today?
No, man. I just want to thank Wes again. Every week, and you too, Greg, man. It's humbling to be able to come on here week after week and see so many guys and girls that really they pour back into service. They pour back into giving to other people. Being able to team up, and egos go out the window. And if we're gonna have an empathetic dialogue, and we're actually gonna talk about ways to make change, that's what it's going to take, is guys like Wes and guys like you, Greg, all of us coming together and just making it happen. Thank you again, Wes, for coming on and sharing your story. And man, I love your attitude, and I love everything you guys are doing down in Mississippi.
Thank you. I enjoyed every second of it, and I appreciate y'all inviting me on here. Um, I I always use the Bible verse, Romans 8:18, for consider the sufferings of the present times aren't worth comparing to the glory that'll be revealed to us and in us. So I just try to show people that that Christ is worth every second, and that we can, that's what you see in us. That's what makes us put one foot in front of the other, whether or not we can or not. He is there and pushes us and helps us to get along. The storms don't go away, but Christ is there right alongside you in every step. So